Auburn drops their SEC opener to Texas A&M 27-10. Was it as bad as it looked, or was it even worse? We'll discuss today on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome into the Crowded Booth. I'm Will Maness. No Bryce today, just me going solo to talk about Auburn's 27-10 loss to Texas A&M on Saturday, the SEC opener for both of these teams. And it was pretty ugly, to put it lightly, from the Auburn perspective. 27-10, only 3 points scored from the offense, and that's where we're going to start. The offensive ineptitude of Auburn, and that's, I think, putting it nicely. You just look at the raw stats. Auburn only threw for 56 yards, and they ran for 144. Outgained 200 to 402 by Texas A&M. When you're only putting up 200 yards of total offense, you're not going to really beat anybody. You're not going to beat anybody in the SEC, especially not a team as talented and deep as Texas A&M. And their depth really showed in this one, and Auburn's thin roster showed as well. I want to start with quarterback. I think that's pretty obvious where we should start. Peyton Thorne, 6 of 12 for 44 yards. Just he looked really bad. He was really bad against Texas A&M. He was sacked. A&M as a team had 7 sacks. I want to say Thorne was 6 of those, 5 or 6 of those, but not all of them were on the offensive line. In fact, I think the offensive line played pretty well. Thorne had a lot of options on a lot of plays where he just didn't throw the ball. I mean, he looked scared to throw the ball into traffic. You know, I don't know if the timing was off, but it looks like at minimum his internal clock as a quarterback is way off, and I think it's been off from day one since he got to Auburn, which, you know, is to be expected when you have a transfer quarterback. And you've got a receiving group that he's obviously never played with, and all but one of Auburn's receivers weren't on the team last year. So everybody's kind of learning together at the same time. But, you know, in the passing game, there was a lot of plays, and it started early. There was a lot of plays where receivers were open, and Thorne either predetermined where the ball was going to go, where he wanted it to go. I don't know if that's by design of the play or that was game plan or what, and he just didn't throw it. And a lot of times it led to sacks. You know, the opening drive, this happened. You know, Auburn tries to run it twice. They get nowhere. So now they're backed up in 3rd and long, which, if you watch the game, was just about every drive for Auburn ending up in 3rd and long. And they've got Javarius Johnson, who, coming into this one last week, Hugh Freeze said they've got to get him more involved in the offense. I have no problems with them wanting to get the ball to Javarius Johnson. I think he's the most electric receiver Auburn has, one of the best playmakers Auburn has on that offense. So, you know, I've got no complaints with the idea, but on that 3rd and 11 to start the game, Auburn's first drive, Johnson's running a drag route right over the middle, and Thorne is looking at him from the time he catches the snap, waiting for him to clear the line. And Thorne has time to throw. He has to step up in the pocket, but he's got a clean pocket, good time to throw it, and he just overthrows him on a drag route. First throw of the game, not in a rhythm. That's all good and fine. But if you go back and watch that play, you look at the bottom of your screen, Shane Hooks running a deep dig, and he's sitting about 12 yards away. He's sitting for a first down. He is wide open. And Thorne's either got to, on 3rd and long, you got to try to get that first down. You can't just dump it and try to pick some up just to punt it, especially on the opening drive when you're at your own 20-yard line like Auburn was, especially when you've got that guy open. And Thorne is kind of looking that way, so he can just look up and see Hooks is there. He's wide open. He just didn't throw it to him. And that was a theme all day. Thorne has guys coming open. I thought the receivers, they looked to be, you know, to have a really good game. They were open a lot. Sometimes, you know, the protection did break down. A&M's got a great front. Some of these guys on defense that were in the backfield all day. Torian York, linebacker, he ended up with 11 tackles. Edrin Cooper had 8 tackles. Shamar Turner and Nolan Walter on that defensive line were putting pressure on the quarterback all day. So I mean, there's no denying A&M has studs and can get to the pass, get to the quarterback. But still, a lot of plays. Thorne has options. He has outlets to get the ball out, and he just didn't. He held it, or he tried to scramble, and ended up taking a sack. Auburn eventually went to Robbie Ashford, and he only threw 4 times. He was 1 for 4, so there wasn't much there. He did have a throw, I believe, is in the third quarter, which was a really good quarter for Auburn. The second and third quarter, I thought Auburn played really well offensively. They just couldn't get points. Hugh Freeze said it in his press conference today. That second quarter, they left at least 12 points out on the field. And but going back to that throw to Ashford, Auburn got in a one-on-one with Shane Hooks, who they've really felt they could go vertical with and can trust to go get a 50-50 ball. Thorne threw him one, and it hit him in the arm. And, Ashford threw it and put it in the perfect spot and hit him in the arm. And, if you put it right there for a receiver, especially knowing with Robbie Ashford at quarterback, who is inconsistent throwing the ball, you've got to go up and get that play. And even no matter who the quarterback is, as inconsistent as Auburn's been throwing the ball this year, you need your receiver to go up and make that play. And he just didn't make it that time. But the big positive for Auburn offensively was they did run the ball really well. I thought the run blocking was really good by the offensive line. The running backs did a great job hitting the holes, I thought, for the most part. Brian Battie led the team with 59 yards. Jarquez Hunter added 53. 8 carries for Battie, 9 for Hunter. I thought they looked really good. Battie, I thought, really showed out, in his SEC debut, transferring in from South Florida. He'd kind of looked like he'd fallen in that running back rotation. Obviously Damari Alston goes down in this game. That helps Battie, but Battie did a great job stepping up and filling that role that Alston has had as the second running back. And I thought Battie had a really, really good game. But yeah, Alston, a quick note on Alston and that shoulder Freeze said today, it is a separated shoulder. But they're still going through tests. So he's going to be out. He's already ruled out and he's out for a while. But they're still going through tests, trying to figure out what exactly is wrong and if it's going to need surgery or not. So don't expect to see much of Damari Alston for likely the rest of the year. You look, there's 8 games left. He could come back and play the final couple games, but a separated shoulder with only 8 games left is going to be tough for him to get back and get back into playing. Robbie Ashford was kind of shut down by A&M, just 8 runs for 25 yards. A really poor day for Robbie Ashford on both sides. But the thing about Ashford and what helped kind of spring this running game was his threat to run the ball. With Thorne in there running the RPO, A&M, they were keying in on the running backs. They were going after the running back almost every RPO, every option that Thorne had. So they were not concerned with Thorne running at all. With Ashford in there, they had to second guess. They thought a little bit. There's a lot of runs in there. Auburn's trying to run away from whether it's Walter or blanking on his name. I got to pull it back up. Edgerrin Cooper or Shamar Turner. They're trying to run away from those guys. And they do. The tailback gets the ball, but they're so fast. They're able to get around that edge and still make the tackle for a loss. And A&M was in the backfield a ton, in Auburn's backfield a ton. So it was just really tough. But Ashford, moving forward, and I'll get more into this later, I think Ashford's just a better fit for this offense than Peyton Thorne. And Thorne hasn't shown me anything to stick as Auburn's starting quarterback. But let's talk about the defense, Auburn's defense. I'm calling it an Auburn defense because they look like an Auburn defense on Saturday. I mean, they were flying around. They were hitting hard. They really looked like they were playing for each other, which was really, really encouraging to see and something that I think has been missing from a lot of games the last couple of years. That's an old school Auburn hard-nosed defense, just kind of playing like their hair's on fire. And it was really fun to see, and it was really encouraging to see the defense play well. I said it going into the game, Eugene Asante is going to have a big game. He had a really nice game, 9 tackles, and he recovered that fumble and ran it for a touchdown. Fumble forced by a true freshman, Kayan Lee. If you watched the preview show, I said I was very interested to see what his role would be and how he would play. I thought he had a really nice game. Obviously forced that fumble, had a pass breakup and just one tackle. But he was kind of in and out of there, just like the rest of the secondary. A lot of injuries in that secondary. Donovan Kaufman was in and out a lot. He really gutted it out. He's got an ankle problem. JD Rim had to leave the game early. He was playing nickel, and him missing really hurt. He and Zion Puckett returned playing safety, but he got banged up and had to miss some time. And the safety behind him being Caleb Wooden, younger brother of former Auburn offensive lineman or defensive lineman Colby Wooden. He's Puckett's backup at safety. With Puckett going down, with JD Rim going down, they had to bring Caleb Wooden in to play that slot or that nickel corner. And they're playing a third string. I want to say it was Marquise Gilbert or Terrence Love was playing back there and really threw the defense out of whack. Those are two guys that haven't played a ton for Auburn. And that safety position, Hugh Freeze said, is very important in this defense. That role they used to keep them lined up. Zion Puckett does a really great job back there of keeping them lined up, getting everybody on the same page with coverages and everything. And he goes out. Wooden comes down to nickel, and that really allowed A&M to get explosive in the second half and hit those big pass plays. DJ James was in and out as well, and that's a big loss, on the outside. He's an NFL player at corner, and him being in and out really hurt Auburn's secondary too. But I think more than the injuries, it was the poor offensive play. And Auburn fans, it's frustrating to see because it's the same story. New coach, same story, right? Started under Gus Malzahn. It was the same way under Brian Harsin, and it showed Saturday. The offense just can't even do enough to keep the defense off the field and, give them time. They're playing all these snaps and they really wear down, and A&M did a really nice job of leaning on that Auburn defense in the second half. Quick note on A&M's offense. Connor Wegman went down in that first half. It was interesting. It was an interesting one for me to see him go out. A lot of times the starting quarterback goes down, you get excited. I was not, because I've thought since Max Johnson transferred to Texas A&M that he was the best quarterback they had on their roster. And he certainly played like it. In relief of Wegman, he was 7 of 11, 123 yards, threw 2 touchdowns. Max Johnson is really, really good. I think he's an NFL quarterback. Wegman has shown that he's a really good quarterback. I think he's got NFL potential as well. But, it's tough to beat a team that's got 2 starting caliber quarterbacks, and that's what A&M has in Auburn. They just couldn't get enough stops defensively, and the offense couldn't do enough. I said it. I was texting some friends at the beginning of the game, and I said, it feels like that this defense is going to have to have a performance like the 2007 Florida game. In that game, Auburn beat the top 5. I can't remember what Florida's ranked. They were in the top 5. Or it was 2006, the one that Auburn played them at home. Florida's ranked in the top 5, and Auburn beat them 27-20. And the offense didn't score a single touchdown. I think they kicked 3 field goals. But the defense, they scored all touchdowns were by the defense. The only touchdown in this game was by the Auburn defense. But I was really encouraged and really liked what I saw out of the defense. If the secondary can get healthy coming into the year, really thought the secondary was a strength of this defense. If they can get healthy, I think Auburn's got a chance. They're going to keep Auburn in games. And if they can just find something on offense, they can win some games. They can win some more games. So, steps to fix the offense. I think number one, you got to get quarterback settled. And for me, it's Robbie Ashford. I think Robbie Ashford is a much better fit for this offense than Peyton Thorne. Ashford is a real threat to keep the ball on an RPO and run it and pick up a big run. Ashford had several runs where he's meeting the safety at the second level and just lowers his shoulder and just runs right through him. You're not going to get that from Peyton Thorne. You're not going to get that from a lot of other quarterbacks. And I think the physical running of Robbie Ashford is a real difference maker in this offense. And it showed in the third quarter with Ashford. I think he played every snap, or maybe all but 2 or 3 snaps at quarterback in that third quarter, and it opened up the running lanes for the running backs. It made the defense second guess who had the ball, and really opened things up for this offense. So I think number one, this offense, the strength of this offense is running the ball. I think Ashford much better runner than Thorne. I think Ashford should be playing quarterback. Number two, there's no passing game, and that can be, you can put that blame on a lot of people. You can put it on Peyton Thorne for playing so poorly. You can put it on the offensive line for not giving the quarterback enough time, and you can put it on the receivers, because honestly, the receivers, a lot of new names out there, a lot of new talent, and I think there is some talent in this receiver room for Auburn. But they haven't been very good. I thought they did a really good job, like I said earlier, against A&M, getting open and giving Thorne a chance, but Thorne just couldn't find him and wouldn't get the ball to him. But I think it's a combination of all three. And, obviously Hugh Freeze wants to throw the football. He wants to have balance, but it's not working. It's just not working. And and I think he's really got to lean into the running game. I mean, like I said earlier, Auburn, 200 total yards, 144 of them on the ground, just 56 through the air. Just keep running the ball. Just keep running. I mean, it was gonna be tough against A&M, and Auburn, I think, did a really nice job of running the ball, finding running lanes. I think it's gonna be an even harder job this weekend against Georgia. But I think you got to play to your strengths. I think the coaches have got to play to this team's strengths, and that's running the football. And number three, and it's what really hurt Auburn against Texas A&M, is penalties. I mean, Auburn would get down into field goal range inside, the 30, inside the 35. That's Auburn's scoring range. With Alex McPherson, he's got a big leg, hit that 52-yard field goal at the end of the first half. So Auburn offensively, they just got to get to the 35-yard line, and they got a chance to put up some points. But it happened on nearly every drive for Auburn. They would get down inside the 35, and there'd be a false start. There'd be a sack. There'd be a hold. Hugh Freeze addressed today a lot of those holds he didn't agree with and turned them into the SEC. But either way, he said, it's still no excuse. We got to be better. We've got to finish drives better. Auburn's got to finish drives. I think, this first part of the season, when they get near that scoring range, they maybe get a little too cute offensively. They try to throw it. Just keep it on the ground. That's the strength of this team. Keep it on the ground. You got great running backs. Starquez Hunter, Brian Battie, even the freshman Jeremiah Cobb, who's going to have to be RB3 now with Damari Austin out. Feed those guys. I think those are the best playmakers, and I think that's the strength of this Auburn team. So it's a tough turnaround for Auburn. They've got Georgia this week. They got the number 1 team in the country coming into Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's going to be tough. I'll have a full preview later this week. But if you don't want to hear much more negatives, maybe find somebody else's preview. But no, be on the lookout. Live show Monday night, Wednesday night, and then Auburn preview Thursday. So be on the lookout. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything we put out here at the Crowded Booth. And thanks for watching.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.